Welcome to 3D Experience Forum. I'm Daniel Newman, Principal Analyst and Founding Partner at Futurum Research. And we're talking to business leaders about digital transformation and finding opportunities for growth during turbulent times. Today, I will be talking with Craig Treble of SNC. Craig, welcome.
Hi, Daniel. Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you here. Let's set up the conversation. Give everybody a little bit about you, your professional experience, and your role at SNC.
Well, I'm an engineer by degree, about 20 years of experience, all of which have been in the aerospace and defense industry. I've been with SNC for a little over 14 years now, where I came in as a design engineer, worked my way into project engineering leadership roles, and then into an engineering management position where I was kind of responsible for helping groom and develop a few of the other engineers that were coming into the organization and making sure that they had all the processes and tools and training they needed to perform their job. So in the 14 and a half years I've been in SNC, like I said, I've grown in increasing roles in the organization. And in the last 4-ish years, I got asked to move into a corporate capacity where I'm now the corporate vice president of engineering, and I'm responsible for a good chunk of the product development lifecycle. So everything from product development to now including the manufacturing activities and our product support activities. So I now get to see a lot of the business, and it's been a fun journey for sure.
Well, congratulations. That's quite a trajectory over, a couple of decades, but great background. I'm sure everybody here at the event is going to love to kind of get a little bit more from you, and I'm going to make sure that that happens. By the way, I noted in some of your background, you talked about your leadership in people, process, and tools. I like that. That's been a big part of this whole overarching digital transformation conversation. We're going to have a little bit more of that as we go on, but some call it people, process, technology. In your world, I see you call it people, process, tools. Hold that thought, though, because I'm going to talk to you more about that. But I want to start off with you talking about kind of the big reset. Throughout the industry, working with many companies, many of the world's largest tech companies, and talking to industries, I found myself asking almost everyone I interact with about how their business has been changed or reset or refocused, purposed in these last 18 months as we've dealt with this very difficult pandemic. Some companies struggled with supply chain, others had workforce challenges, but every company I've found has a story to tell, has had some lessons learned, and many have come out stronger. Talk to me about some of the primary challenges that your business faced throughout this pandemic and some of the key lessons learned.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, there's always change going on, right, in an organization. Like I said, I've been with SNC for 14 years, and I've been lucky enough that we've gone through a significant amount of growth in that time. But you're right, the last 18 months, particularly with the global pandemic, have added some extra wrinkles in that. SNC in the last 18 months, in addition to the pandemic, has gone through some other significant organizational changes. We've split off part of our space division. We've had a change in some of our executive leadership with a new COO, and we've been going through a lot of different investments with our infrastructure and our tools, which I'm sure we'll get into here shortly with Dassault as our PLM system and our manufacturing systems. So there's been a lot of change at SNC for sure, and I personally feel SNC has handled it very well. Obviously, the pandemic came, and that quickly thrust more than half of our workforce into remote employment. Obviously, some of our staff had to still be on site in some of our production facilities, but that got managed pretty well, doing kind of A team and B team so we could minimize exposures if there were issues like that. But the engineering team largely went remote, and it was interesting. We actually saw a slight uptick in productivity initially because people had nothing else to do, right? And they weren't sitting there talking around the water cooler and driving to and from work. And they're locked up in their house, and people were just knocking out their to-do list, right? They're just getting all those things that are always never got done, were magically starting to get done. But obviously, that makes it hard as we continued on once that backlog was cleaned up for new programs to get started, right? That ideation phase when your program first kicks off and you need that brainstorming, that collaboration, and there's just something about like grabbing a whiteboard, right, and chatting through a design concept or a customer's requirements. And that's where it got a little difficult, but I think we did pretty well with it. Our IT organization accelerated some projects they had in the pipeline to help for like performance and bandwidth and implementing like Microsoft Teams. We were going through a change with that around the time of the pandemic as well, but luckily that got implemented, and that really helped facilitate that collaboration and people to be able to work remotely. So like I said, it made things difficult, but it also accelerated things that are now, as we're coming hopefully off the pandemic wave. Now we can realize those benefits now that we're back in person with the workforce, but still have a lot of those collaboration tools and improvements we've seen as an organization.
So something I'd just like to build on that is it sounds like you rolled out some new tools or you upgraded and changed the tools. How did you find the experience of getting that buy-in, the adoption, improving usability during the period where you didn't have that hands-on acting over teams? What kind of steps did you have to take as an organization to make sure that you could still benefit from those investments? And I think part of the reason you really need to ask this question now is, while yes, you're going to start bringing people back into work, I think a lot of companies have started to say, you know what, we're going to maximize the talent opportunity. We're going to continue to hire remote. We're going to hire more hybrid work. We're going to build our workforce to be productive from anywhere as long as we get the best people. So some of those lessons learned are going to become really paramount to continuing to transform the business.
Absolutely. So yeah, going to what you touched on there with the remote workforce, right? Having powerful workstations and computers on premises no longer meet the needs, right? When someone's VPNing from home office and you have no idea what their net connectivity and bandwidth is, has moved us to more of those collaborative environments, cloud-based environments, virtual desktops, where you're remoting in and you're not putting as much of a burden on that connection. So it's really changed how we approached our infrastructure for especially like the high power computing and powerful engineering activities and analysis activities. So we definitely had to shift that. And like I said, it reaps rewards for the on-site folks as well, but you're right, it really allows us to tap into other resources. It's no longer about your brick and mortar facility, right, which is the old mindset of a factory and having a row of engineers sitting in a room together. It's now a virtual environment, right, everywhere, right? So you could have engineers in Maine and in California, and they're working as if they're sitting next to each other. So it's really important to do that. And then the other thing you touched on is going through these changes and implementing these new tools through this period. Right, organizational change management is huge. At S&C, I've seen projects struggle, and it's clear that they didn't do a very good job with that. But I'd say over the last 18 months or even like 3 years now, a lot of these new tools we've been rolling out, we've done a much better job about that, about communicating the why. Why are we doing this? What is the benefit to the employee and ultimately, right, to our customers of making these changes, of these investments? Microsoft Teams, okay, it allows you to collaborate, have meetings, chat, and dialogue on things. But we're rolling out new PLM systems, new manufacturing execution systems, and things like that. And getting that message out there as to the benefits it provides them, why we're doing it, is absolutely important. And I'd say one of the nice things that happened during the pandemic is I think people started giving a lot more grace. They understand that things are difficult and it's hard to make change, and they'll give you a little leeway. Obviously, you can't take advantage of that. You need to eventually produce and deliver on the promises. But I think people have been pretty understanding that everything's a challenge right now to deliver on things.
Yeah, I think as a society, we've all become a bit more empathic, but concurrently a bit more impatient. so it's kind of an interesting blend. So as a company, you're evolving, you're changing, you're adopting the newest technologies to be the most competitive in your particular sector. How do you see your path versus the competition? Are you taking a different path? Are you sort of along that digital journey with everyone else? I always call it the leaders to laggards scale. Where do you sort of see yourself, and how do you perhaps differentiate yourself?
Yeah, I'd say generally, right, if you step back, everyone, at least in the aerospace and defense industry, is going on a similar journey, right? They're going through that digital transformation and trying to achieve that digital twin, digital thread, model-based enterprise, right? So at that level, we're doing a lot of similar things that the rest of the industry is doing it. I'd say one of the things we're doing a little differently is we almost went back to a whiteboard, a clean slate. We had a lot of design tools. We had different PDM and PLM systems across our different business units and different facilities. And about 3 years ago, we stepped back and said, hey, can we standardize on our infrastructure and our tools and things like that, and glean some efficiencies there. So when we did that, we went back and looked at what are the best systems out there, what's the best roadmap for S&C. So when we go through this transformation, we're not taking our current tools and trying to evolve them into this model-based enterprise. We're starting with kind of a clean sheet based on Dassault's 3D Experience platform and some of their other tool sets. So when we come out of this, we feel we're going to be on that cutting edge, on the tip of the spear, as a lot of our customers refer to, in the sense that we're going to be fully invested in that unified product structure, and the digital twin and the digital thread. We're designing the system, right? The digital thread and a model-based enterprise, it's a system, just like our products have our systems, right? System of systems. We really stepped back and looked at it as a system and said, hey, how do we want this to work? How do we want these tools to integrate? And how does all this data flow from our design efforts to our manufacturing systems to our product support organizations? So by stepping back and looking at that, I think we're going to come out with a cleaner, better system in the end.
So build on that for me a little bit. Companies are now all deeply entrenched in this digital transformation. It only was accelerated in some industries, it was months, in other industries, it was years. How is that process changing in your firm? You know, are the same people still driving those processes? Is it being, pulled through by customer demands? What ultimately is making digital transformation happen in your organization?
Yeah, it's interesting. When we first started looking at this, like I said, kind of 3-4 years ago for S&C, to the kind of let's step back and reassess where we're at, where we want to be. There's a lot of people asking, like, why are we doing this? What's broken? We're successful. We've got a lot of business. We're hitting our profit margins and things like that. So again, the question was, what problem are we trying to fix? And the answer I always gave to them is, we're fixing our future. I agree nothing's broken now, but our systems and our tools we're using now won't work for the programs and the customer demands we're expecting to see 3, 4, 5 years down the road. So fast forward to this year, those same leaders that are coming into the organization asking those questions, they're now coming to me saying, where is this capability you're talking about? I need the stuff that's on your roadmap for next year now. My customers are asking for it. And I kind of chuckle and I give them the look of, yeah, I told you so. But you need to always be looking forward on what's the next things your customers are going to expect. Our customers, especially in the defense industry, they're no longer asking for tech volumes where you write what you say you can do for them. They don't want to hear what you say you can do. They want to see it, right? So our proposals now to our customers require us to deliver models. Model-based system engineering, so functional and logical models and system models and CAD models. That's what they want to see as part of the proposal. They want to see that you can actually do it, not just say you can do it. So that it's really driven by the customer side, and S&C, we needed to look ahead of that to see that coming, because these aren't things, like you said, that you can turn on overnight. These are big investments and large efforts to stand up these systems and get them fine-tuned to be effective.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So let's move this forward right now. Obviously, we're at this very, very exciting event. We're looking into the 3D experience, partnering here with Dassault, and your partnership, speaking of, is very important here. Talk a little bit about that. Talk about when your leadership really saw that Dassault Systèmes was the right partner to move forward in your business.
Yeah, so like I said, we started 4 years ago, making this assessment, and instead of just saying, hey, this is what we have, so we're going to move forward with it, we looked back and we looked at a lot of the industry best practices. We talked to some other companies, both in our industry, but also in kind of tangential industries, to kind of see what their best practices are, what their tools were. And Dassault obviously is one of the top ones out there, and there's a couple others that compete pretty heavily with them that we considered as well. But ultimately, it came down to a couple of things. One, the user adoption, and that focus really was on like a user interface. The 3D Experience platform and it being integrated is a very clean interface for users, right? If a user doesn't want to open the system and they're confused how to use the system, it doesn't matter how good it is. They're going to work around it. They're going to get frustrated, and they won't use the system. So it was very important for us to make sure we had a system that was integrated and seamless and kind of easy for a user to pick up and adopt for their day-to-day job. The other thing that we looked at when we were going through this assessment, again, because we were stepping back and say, hey, where do we need to be in 3, 5, 10 years with the type of programs and pursuits that we're going after? What are the capabilities we need? And who is going on that same journey? Where are they investing their money? Are they investing their money in model-based systems engineering? Are they investing their money in developing and growing an integrated tool set? Or are they going out there and buying a bunch of, I'll say best of breeds, but it's still a disjointed, disconnected system? So we wanted something that was going, a company and aligned with a company like Dassault that is going forward with a more integrated, holistic solution, because that's where we wanted to be going. So we wanted to latch on with someone that kind of had a shared vision and roadmap of the future from a product lifecycle standpoint.
Yeah, we are definitely in the era of the platform, and companies are consistently looking at what are the right tools to go along with those people and processes that aren't only the right tool for today, but I think you said very eloquently in one of your previous answers when you talked about we're planning for the future, we're building for the future. The extensibility of platforms has to be top of mind of any company making software technology investments. It's not just can it meet the expectation today, it's can it meet the expectation of the future. So that takes me to my final question for you here in this segment. It's been great talking to you, Craig, and thanks for all your candor and your openness. I'm sure everybody out there is really enjoying that. But where do you take the program next? How do you evolve? What is that next future as you see it?
Yeah, so a lot of our efforts today have been getting kind of, I'll say, the foundation put in place, a new PLM system, manufacturing systems, model-based system engineering. We're piloting, kicking off a pilot for some model-based definition activities now. So the next steps, now that we have that foundation in place, is really connecting those tissues, right? That digital thread is making sure those systems are working together real seamlessly. And then the initial rollout of these systems, we're basically starting with new programs. We are in the next 12 to 18 months migrating all of our legacy data from our various tools, Dassault PDM and a variety of other PDM and PLM tools. So we're migrating all that legacy data. So we need to cut off that technical debt. We can't keep paying licenses and servers and everything else for all these other systems. And a lot of our business is based on evolution of previous products. So we need that historical data, that product information into our new system so we can continue to leverage it. So that's where we're going to be focusing on the next year, is getting all of our product definition data into the new system, and then continuing to grow and connect, like I said, those tissues, connect those various systems to each other so we can really realize the return on investment that we've been looking forward to.
Well, I really appreciate you joining me here at the 3D Experience Forum. Craig Treble, SNC. We'll see you again soon.
Thanks, Daniel. Appreciate it. Enjoyed it.